Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to Wildcards. This is the show and the Banff family of podcasts, in which we talk about all things Savage Worlds. And before we get too into it, let me play our musical intro.
Sometimes I forget all the banners that I've drawn for you.
We've been working together a long time, Jacob. And that particular banner assures you, gentle viewer, that this is a high production values podcast. This is a highly professional podcast. As you can see, because I'm a consummate professional, I have a tiny URL already made up to promote this project from Pinnacle. tinyurl.com/Lost Colony RPG will take you directly to the backer kit page that I will share with you here for Deadlands Lost Colony Mad World. That is two subtitles in that.
I know. Well, I mean, that's the thing that you hit where it's like, oh, it's Deadlands, it's Lost Colony, and it's its own adventure. It's like, oh, we got a lot of colors. You know what? It's okay.
Well, I mean, you have to have Deadlands because there's a branding, and then there's Lost Colony, which is also branding, and then you get the actual title of the product, which is Mad World. But oh wow, we are getting under the wire, folks. There are just 5 days left. Today is the 8th of March. Just 5 days left, practically to the Ides of March, for those of you who like your Shakespeare references, to back this on Backer Kit. And you guys have crushed the initial goal. Looks like
you're huge into it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And this is one of those like, hey, we'll try to be doing more of these like smaller, shorter campaigns where it's like, a book, right? It doesn't need to be a gigantic box set, just to kind of catch people up, and on all that stuff's there. And it's like, yeah, these are kind of simpler, cheaper campaigns people can jump into, try it out, so to speak, and maybe get into something that they haven't seen before.
Well, I mean, especially in these days when, eggs are costing a lot of money and groceries are expensive and people still want to buy gaming stuff, but a lower price point, I think, gives people courage to, okay, I can try this out and it doesn't work out. I'm not going to kick myself.
I mean, I still think Savage World, like, back in the deluxe days, Savage Worlds was like stupid cheap. Mm-hmm. I mean, and now we're definitely on the cheap. If not the cheapest, we're definitely cheap. And sometimes we worry, like, are we too cheap? But you know what? It is like, that's our thing. We want to get these books into people's hands. We want to give them that opportunity to do it.
We're a friend of the working class. Yeah. Well, hey.
Or we're just too dumb to raise prices.
Honestly, that's one of the reasons why I love continuing to support Savage Worlds products, is because the price point is always at a point where even when I'm in a financial crunch, I can look at that and say, yeah, I can do that. And even with those low price points, you have never, ever skimped on quality. The books are always great. They're made with a quality paper, quality hardback, great art, and great layout. You guys never skimp on any of that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And really, because we're gamers, like, we make the games, like, it's literally like our own internal drive is to make the games that we would buy, that we would want to buy. And that's where a lot of this comes from. It's like, ooh, this is what we want to do and what we want to play. But also it's like, all right, when we get down to it, it's like, well, I wouldn't buy that in this format. How can we make that better? How can we, make this the product that we would want to bring to the table and play. And the same with any extras that we do. It's like, when we are playing, we're taking notes like, wow, what did I need? What did I want that I didn't have? So that's work that game masters and players don't have to do on their own.
That is, we appreciate the thoughtfulness. Speaking of thoughtfulness and completeness, there is a small chance, but not a zero chance, that there is someone listening to this podcast right now who might not be familiar with the Lost Colony aspect of the Deadlands universe. So how would you explain that this particular sci-fi fandango to them?
Yeah, so if you've never heard of Deadlands, you can treat it as a science fiction property, right? Like, at its core, humans went out into space they found one planet, just one, that supports life. And unfortunately for them, there was some life already there. And so you kind of get almost a reenactment of the Pioneer Drive West just in space. And all you really need to know in play is, colonists go to this planet, Banshee, and you get there via basically a hyperspace from Earth. And after a bunch of people are there, you get crackling news over the radio about World War III, and then the tunnel back to Earth collapses behind them, and they are stuck out on this planet with whatever they have with them. So supplies are bad. They're in a tough spot, right? They are the lost colony, cut off from everyone else, and everyone's just trying to get by. And then the extra spice to that, because this is the Deadlands world, is the threats are not merely science fiction and alien in origin. There are monsters here. Like there is, hell, the hunting grounds, whatever you call it, this other dimension filled with evil powers is just as active on Banshee as it was back on Earth. And bad things happen. And in the early days, you're like, yeah, this is a science fiction story, no problem. No one believes in zombies because all that Deadlands stuff happened in the 1800s. We've kind of gotten over that. But, within a year of game time, it's like, no, there's zombies. People are using magic. Like, this is a thing. We're in trouble. And, that's all you really need to know to get going. Now, if you are a Deadlands fan, we play into that, right? This is the same world that, we explore in Deadlands, just move, the timeline moved forward another 200 years, right? We're out of the 1880s and into the 2090s now. Yeah. So, and some of the baddies, the big baddies, the Reckoners, they're called, they were the villains that motivated everything that happened in Deadlands, and they tried to destroy the world. And depending on your game and your timeline, they succeeded. And if they didn't, you managed to make it to where Lost Colony is. And a last gift from Earth before the tunnel closes, or technically after it closes, is Earth manages to ship these big baddies, the Reckoners, to Banshee. Like, hey, thanks. So long. And this is your problem now.
Like Space 1999. Here's all toxic waste for the place you're living now.
Right. Just a little parting gift, for the lost colonists.
Gee, thanks.
I know, right? But the bright side is, this planet, Banshee is a living planet and is a force for good in and of herself. And this planet weakens the Reckoners. It makes them destroyable. So this is sort of the finale of that saga featuring the Reckoners. So we've already killed 2 of them, and in the new book, we're going after the 3rd. There were 4 of them, war, pestilence, famine, and death. We did war, we did famine with Maw of Oblivion, and this book, Mad World, we're dealing with pestilence.
Okay. Just want to acknowledge viewer Robert Wilson says, in space.
In space. All right. I mean, that's it, yes.
All right, so let's talk
That's how we roll.
So pestilence is the Reckoner we're dealing with in this product, looks like.
Yes. Yeah, and the Reckoners, it's they've advanced just as everyone else is. They got a lot of extra power and all of that from Earth before they get shipped off into space. But when they do end up in Banshee, they're at the weakest they've ever been. They're essentially nearly dead. And that's what allows you to take on war in the very first plot point campaign inside the Deadlands Lost Colony book itself. But as time has gone by, they are starting to grow in power again. And Pestilence he himself is a little old school, he likes to kick it Dark Ages style. However, they all have their servants that they employ. He definitely doesn't mind employing advanced, virologists and labs and things like that to cook up the tools that he's going to use to wreak havoc and fear on Banshee all around.
And Robert Wilson says, mostly dead is not completely dead.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Reckoners are pretty hard to put down, but luckily so are heroes. Because even if a hero does go down, you got 2 chances to avoid the grave for good. One is you can get you become harrowed, where a evil spirit latches onto you and says, "Hey, want a second chance? Let's go back at him." Which gets you up out of the grave as an undead, horror. But the downside is you've got to struggle with this monster inside your head the whole time. We have a lot of fun, our Herod players letting the devil out, because you can get this extra burst of power from it, but there's always a cost. Like A, it chips away at your soul and your control, and B, it gives that monster inside you like a chance to go out and affect the world outside, sometimes to hilarious result. If we've got time, I'll tell you about what we had last week in the playtest that absolutely brought everyone to tears. We were laughing so hard.
Nice.
And then the other option for coming back is Banshee can also put a piece of her essence into a hero who has died and bring them back as what's called a guardian. Give them a blessing and say, "Hey, we need people like you to fight these horrors." And up they come with not quite the different powers and not the same baggage that a hero has. But it's definitely not a sure thing for anyone.
Well, that's cool. Well, let's see. Do we want to talk about the adventure, or do we want to talk about the Kickstarter more?
Let's talk about the adventure first. Okay. Story stuff, and then we can, that'll make more sense if we look at the Kickstarter, what things are.
All right, sounds good.
So the original book, gave you background to Banshee herself and what's called the faraway system, the solar system that the Banshee exists in, the Lost Colony exists in. And what we wanted to do with the follow-up books, and it also starts this plot point campaign where you get a spaceship, the Reckless, and you get involved in a plot to destroy the Reckoner War before he regains enough power to become the thing that he was, back in the Deadlands days. And that was all great. And when Shane talked to me about it, like, "Hey, it's been a while. We want to continue this Lost Colony story because we don't like leaving our stories unfinished," right? They reached out to me and said, "Hey, is that something you can do?" And it's like, turns out I'll try. It went pretty well. And then Maw of Oblivion, you go out to fight Famine in the outer faraway system. And the nice thing about that was we got to really detail some of like the asteroids and planets and spaceship combat and stuff outside of the planet. And then now with Mad World, Pestilence is, being tracked down to a part of Banshee called the Toxic Jungle. And we know the basics of the Toxic Jungle from that core book, but this let us really dive into it and do, more detail, more setting stuff, some, savage tales and locations around there, dive into the major city that's nearby called Seaside, and really kind of flesh out some things that we know a little bit about from the core book, but now we can really kind of take a bite out of and get into the depth of. And in the meantime, he has started, Pestilence has started this plague. It's started from the Toxic Jungle and it's going out. And the other thing that's going on is strange gravity storms are afflicting the Toxic Jungle itself. Stuff's happening there. So heroes being heroes, they're going to check it out. They got to, get into the area and get on the trail of Pestilence and try and cure this otherwise incurable disease that is starting to absolutely ravage the population, and get behind what is happening to the Toxic Jungle and stop Pestilence before he can introduce his disease to the living world itself, driving it mad and possibly destroying it.
Okay, so this is an epic scale adventure.
we only have one setting, right? Like 10. You're fighting, like one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It better be epic.
Nice. Jacob, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm curious about the overall general meta-ness of the adventure that's been set up, and in the zeitgeist of Deadlands. Have you guys been planning all of this over time, or is this stuff you come up with as you go? I'm curious about how you plan this.
Shane has the broad strokes in mind, but they're very broad, right?
Mm.
Like, and then as one of us gets to grips on them, it's like, okay, like we knew that Pestilence was in the toxic jungle, like that is established. It's even set up in the main book, right? Like we know he's kind of kicking around there and doing something, but we don't have the details of what he's doing or how you can find him or how you can take him down. So we've got a general notion of where the baddies are, generally what their plans are. We know their personalities and things like that. And then once you get there, that's when you can start filling in the details and making it all come together. And likewise, their story goes backwards as well as forwards.
Okay.
Because we don't know a lot about where the Reckoners came from. It's like War and Pestilence, they're not really these figures. They're some kind of monster that's taking that shape. What are they? Like, where did they come from? And that's a tale that's probably going to show up sooner rather than later, and tie a bunch of other settings together.
Oh yeah, but we have a question. Since it's so epic! ! Can players just start at just seasoned to begin the PPC?
So I call that hard mode. At the beginning of the adventure, we say like, hey, look, this is meant to be the third of a set of 4 plot point campaigns. So we're assuming that your heroes have got a little bit of experience under their belts. They've got we assume they're at least veteran up to heroic. And you can be stronger, right? Like if you've played Savage Worlds, it's like, cool, I'm legendary, and then like one bad roll and you're like, okay, now I'm heroed, or worse, it can happen.
Guardrails are off.
Yeah, there's exactly. I mean, that's how we roll in Savage Worlds. Like we don't have a challenge rating system. We're like, that is a tough fight or not a tough fight. And a seasoned character is, what we say in the book is, you can do it. Start as seasoned. It's hard mode, right? If you were playing a video game, you've got the difficulty cranked to maximum, but give out advances like every session, and it should work out just fine.
Okay.
Well, if you get lucky, because it is hard mode.
Fair enough. Well, Robert Wilson, there you go, straight from the developer's mouth.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's a question that we get a lot because people worry about the difficulty. Like, oh, is it going to be too hard because we are fighting the embodiment of the horsemen of the apocalypse? Or is it going to be too easy because I've played through these other campaigns and I'm legendary? And what I tell people is how we try to handle that is changing up the way the challenges are presented, because you can't be good at everything. So the more variety you have in what you got to do and what you've got to face, eventually, it won't take too long for you to hit that thing that your group hasn't had the advances to be good at yet. That's where they'll find that challenge, and like I say, combat can always go sideways no matter how strong you are.
Yep, there's always some random luck in there. I gotta tell you, I'm liking the art on the Pestilence bounty card. I grew up in a state where we had a local TV horror host called Sammy Terry, and he kind of looks like this guy, but it looks like Pestilence has a little Jack Palance going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I cannot speak for the artist. Like that wasn't a specific art request. The only thing for the art on that, like, you know, so like War was like a cybered out, like futuristic armor. Famine was, Famine was really ragged. Like she's messed up because she was kind of at low ebb power and has been out in space. You know, didn't have much going on. Pestilence is old school, and what we wanted to do with him was kind of evoke. There's a set of Deadlands comics, and they have some of the backstory of some of the major players, like Raven, and Raven meets the Reckoners, and we wanted to evoke his look, his Dark Ages look that he's kept, you know, even in the 1800s. And it's like, no, like he's styling, right? Like he's gonna keep that look. And then,
it's easy to see that guy as a Conan villain.
Yeah, we'll find out what. Yeah, with a little bit, like he's got like little nods to the fact that it's a higher tech level. Like he's got the Under Armour that's the Kevlar, you know, but his look he's trying to keep, you know, alone.
The look is,
yeah, we'll see where Death lands on that, you know, future to past style level.
That is pretty cool. Well, hey, just to dip into numbers, looking at $15 for a PDF. That is nothing to sneeze at. It's easy to get a hold of, and then print is only $30 for print and digital, so that's pretty cool.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah,
and for the whole shebang.
Yeah, and the whole shebang. The interesting thing is we debated when we were doing this one, like the original plan was like, hey, just a book, right? We'll do a book and get out. But as we play, like we just like stuff, and we've got the materials to make this other stuff, but we also didn't want to make a box, essentially. So the whole thing with the $40 one is we're making a couple sheets of pawns to use at the table, a couple of cards that are very useful in the campaign, and then a newer version, updated, of the archetypes that we probably won't print again anywhere else. And we're just going to, you know, shrink wrap it to the book and mail it out that way. We can afford to do that in a campaign. We can't do that in retail, which is why that's kind of like a special level. It's like, hey, we're going to make these depending on what people want and then get them out there. And then that's kind of it. So hopefully people enjoy them.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of cool stuff. You get the Mad World print PDF, Mad World Deluxe Extras, Lost Colony Archetypes.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, the bounty card, mentioned the pawns, Trail of Spears, Seaside Map, a lot of cool stuff. Moving down, let's say you wanted to get deep into Lost Colony.
Yeah, right? Go all in, right? We've got the digital and the new print one. And essentially it's like, hey, you know, if you want to dive in, this is the time and place to do it, because it's something like on the physical one, it's like $50 that you save by just getting it as a bundle, and that gets you everything. It's a box set that comes with the original book and props and maps and all of that. The Maw of Oblivion, and we did pawns for that for the first time, and separate map for the would be disappointed with just a book. That's why we try to make everyone happy. Like it's impossible, but we try. Like I think a lot of people have wanted it a little bit more lean campaigns, like because like you said, times are kind of hard. So
yeah, I guess that. Yeah, based on recent emails from Drive-Thru RPG, which I noticed you guys are using for fulfillment on this, printing's not going to get cheaper. It's going to be going up very shortly, and then probably, I would expect some more a few months later, just given the way certain things are going.
We always do digital fulfillment through Drive-Thru RPG, so that people that have their libraries there can do that. That's something that we always try to do. Again, we're gamers. We know how we buy. We know how our, we try to be accessible on that. You also get it separately from Drive-Thru RPG on the Peg Inc. site digitally. And then the printing we all do.
Oh, you do an offset print run. Okay.
Yeah, we do that. Yeah, that's all done through Studio 2, our partners.
Okay.
There, and that goes out. So this isn't like a Drive-Thru print on demand, anything like that. It's like no.
Yeah.
Just the PDF.
Gotcha. And Robert says, someone said the print version of early books won't always be available, so I wouldn't wait until the conclusion of the Lost Colony arc to get everything at once. That seems like solid advice.
I did not say that, but you never know. Things are weird out there.
If one thing I can guarantee the next few years is printing and shipping will not get cheaper.
That is absolutely true. Like that's something we all look at with trepidation, and like I say, we're as gamers ourselves, like our goal is so that you guys never notice the difference from us, you know.
But, you got add-ons too. Oh, if you wanted to get the Savage Worlds book, you can pick it up for $40. That's not
exactly. These are the same items that you see in that all-in thing, because maybe you missed one. You don't need to buy it all again, so you can just go in and grab the one thing that you missed.
Okay, cool. You can pick up the Maw of Oblivion. You can pick up Lost Colony box set, Black City map pack.
Yeah,
digital.
Which is meant to go with Maw of Oblivion, but also there are the Black Cities they're a alien architecture on Banshee that does not belong on Banshee. Essentially, it's not the native life there did not make these things, and they're filled with these horrifying, undead sorcerers from the other place, and they're a Deadland. And if you know Deadlands lore, a Deadland's is a bad thing. The fear is amped up massively. Dark magic works better, is stronger there, and the landscape itself has become a living nightmare. So yeah, Black Cities are rough.
Brendan Star Animal used to get a core book with every Kickstarter. I think he has a book.
We do joke like we need to partner with IKEA, and have your Savage bookshelf.
One of the things I've always enjoyed about the Savage Worlds Kickstarters is the add-ons that help with that. Like with Savage Rifts, which I'm a huge collector of.
Nice. Thank you.
I wasn't able to participate with the South America one because I was poor at the time. But when you did your most recent Europa one, because you had all the South America stuff on the add-ons, I was able to pick those up then.
Yeah, exactly. These are all items that are available on our web store. But every time we do a campaign, it is an excuse for people to pile their stuff up together and save up on shipping costs. Yep. So we try to make that option available.
That is pretty cool. Well, guys, I think we've talked about this subject. Any closing thoughts before we wrap things up?
Thank you guys. This is already, surpassed our expectations for, just a nice, pleasant, epic campaign book, that moves out there, but it was at a pretty low price point. So it's already blown away what we had hoped for. And there's more to come. The story will conclude with the fourth plot point, where you guys get to tackle death.
Well, all right. One more time, because I am a consummate professional, tinyurl.com/lostcolonyrpg will get you right to the backer kit page. But move fast. Today is the 8th of March. This will be closing up on the 12th.
Next Thursday.
The 13th. Yeah, next Thursday. So move fast or you will miss the boat.
It's also my sister's birthday.
Oh, Darrell's sister.
I might miss the stream at the end of that.
Family comes first, as they say.
You're right.
So, all right, well, folks, thanks for tuning in to Wildcards, and we will catch you again soon. See ya.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.